recorded so that those commissioners that could not join us this evening will be able an opportunity to get brought up to speed and briefed. And again, we thank Glendora Hughes for being here tonight and taking some of her time. And with that, I'll turn it over to the Executive Director for his remarks. You have to unmute yourself, though.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have a whole lot of remarks tonight. I'm really excited about jumping right into the presentation from our guest. I did want to direct everyone's attention just really quickly to some of the attachments that are included in the invite, just so that you're aware of that. As commissioners, I think it's important for you to be able to get this information out to the community. And that is the Baltimore County Partners Resource Guide that we are issuing weekly, that allows people to know about some of the resources that the county is providing as we navigate this COVID-19 crisis, and make sure that folks have the support services that they need from government. So with that, I know this is a training focused meeting and we're not really conducting the business of the HRC this evening directly. So with that, I'm going to curtail my remarks and just state how excited I am to have Ms. Hughes here to provide us with a state level perspective around the human relations commissions across the state and our statute specifically.
Okay, well, good evening, everyone. Happy to be here. For those who are just meeting me, Glendora Hughes, General Counsel for the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights. By show of hands, are there any new commissioners? How many are new? Okay. How many have been here for 2 years? Raise your hand. Okay. 3, 4, 5. So some of you have been well, it seemed like the chair's been here a minute. But I'm just wanted when I was asked to present, I just wanted to I asked for your ordinance to see how you are how you organize and how you authorize. And when I went through it, I just wanted to just share with you some perspectives, the differences between the state and your ordinance, some of potential conflicts or tight spots I see that you may have because of the way your statute is drafted, and also to share with you some of the things I think that are helpful as commissioners in terms of carrying out some of your authorized duties. I invite questions as we go along, and I'll look up this, you can use by raising your hand and then unmute and ask your question, rather than trying to wait till the end and people trying to remember what they want to ask a question about. With no ado, I want to start off with what your coverages are, your protected classes. You know what they are, but I tell you, the state does not have as a protected class veterans. Veteran status is not a protected class under state law. Everything else from what I looked at is similar. We have the same protected classes that you have. Now, in terms of coverage, you all have additional coverage over subject matter that the state does not have coverage over. In your statute, you specifically have coverage for education and financing. That's not in the state law. We have do not have jurisdiction or authority to do education or financing. There are an area that we will be getting come October 1st, we will be getting jurisdiction over, and that is health, medical care. That will kick in October 1st. As a end around the General Assembly, we're concerned about the possible removal of a rule by the federal government as it applied to providing protections for protected classes in medical care, and the restricting of that rule to eliminate sexual orientation and gender identity, and also to remove protections for persons under the insurance mandate with the insurance commissioner providing medical care and also providing insurance under the health insurance law, where again it would be removing persons who are on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity from that law. So, as in a preemptive strike, the General Assembly passed legislation ahead of time that even if the federal government rolls back those rules, that there would still be coverage come October 1st for those protected classes and other protected classes in the state of Maryland. And we are charged with enforcing that part of the statute. Another area we are mandated to enforce is we are responsible for training units of the state government, representatives of the state governments, to train all state employees on sexual harassment prevention. It's a mandate. Every single state employee, from the governor to the groundskeeper, has to have training on sexual harassment, and that they must have it every 2 years, and that if you are new to state government, you must be trained within 6 months of your commencing your time with the state. And that included all personnel groups. The state has a couple of additional personnel groups other than the executive branch. There is the judiciary, and then there is the Department of Transportation. They all have their own personnel systems. Well, everybody, or all of them, have to have sexual harassment training. So we have been charged doing training the trainer, getting persons from those different agencies who are that we train to go back and train their workforce, because clearly we cannot train the entire state. And it's even challenging trying to train the trainers from these different agencies. And they are responsible for ensuring that persons are trained. And then the General Assembly also, in emphasizing their seriousness, they have charged the statewide EEO coordinator's office to do audits on agencies in terms of their compliance with this statute, and making sure that their employees are being trained. So it has been a huge endeavor. And now we had to regroup because of the COVID-19 and everybody's home. And it requires that training be interactive, that they had to be person-to-person interactive training or virtual interactive training. So they wanted to address the fly-by-night kind of training that persons claim that, oh, I've been trained on sexual harassment, and basically their slides and that people look at online, and half the time they leave the room while the slides are going through, and then come back and sign off and say they've been trained, and they haven't been trained on anything. So they wanted to ensure by this interactive requirement that persons are actually being trained and are being engaged in the training. So we had to come up, because we had to cease with our face-to-face training to put together in a virtual interactive training, and that in a manner that would make it that we could affirm that people are actually being trained. They're not turning the training on and moving on, but they are actually being trained. So we had a monkey wrench thrown in at the beginning where the state prohibited us from using Zoom. And then after much negotiation and fixes that Zoom had made for security, they're now recently sent a memo saying, okay, you can use it, but if you pay for it, your agency. And Zoom is the best platform to do virtual training because you can put, I think the max, you could put 49 people on the screen in a grid. Also, you can create breakout rooms, which you can't do with other platforms. We tried, we couldn't do it. And some of our training is sending people off into groups to work on problems and then come back and engage the larger group. So we were not having that was sort of inhibiting, but now that we're able to do it, then we are able to go forward with doing that kind of training for state unit representatives that will have to go back and do training, and plus show them how they can do it, so that they can get back on course trying to train their workforce. So that's one of the another one of our mandates, unfunded of course, that we have been that we have been charged to try to carry out in terms of coverage of our statute. Our statute is our main statute is the state government article Title 20. That is the statute that we operate from. I also note in terms of your definitions is that as you define in an employment discrimination, your definitions of employee exclude persons who are county government employees, persons who are county board of education employees, and persons who are community college employees. Our statute does not exclude local governments. We can file charges against local governments and colleges and boards of education if they're employers. And we can file charges against the state itself. The state waived its immunity, its sovereign immunity in employment that gave us authority to bring actions against state agencies and state government if they are violating the state law against unlawful discrimination, which is very, very important in that you have the largest employer is the state of Maryland. And so to not give those persons the protection under the law, you're excluding a large portion of Marylanders from being able to have coverage under state law. In addition, I think your statute excludes, as in the definition of an employer, the county government, the community college, and the board of education. They're all excluded as employers. So those persons who are employees of those entities can file with the state, and we do have jurisdiction over those entities and can file charges, file complaints, accept and investigate complaints against those entities. So those are some of the differences I saw in terms of your protected classes, coverage, and definitions. Also, the state, under state law, an employee does include, as of last October, independent contractors. So persons who are independent contractors who are working for a particular, or for the state or for whomever, if they are being discriminated against, they have the right to file a charge of discrimination against the entity that they're contracted to, that they're working for. And that and this is this some of the sexual harassment mandate in this independent contractor edition came about as a package that came through because of the Women's Caucus addressing the Me Too movement. And they held hearings and they had caucuses similar to what they're doing now with police reform, where they're holding hearings and they're gathering information and they're hearing, I think at the end of the year, Senator Hill is going to hold a town hall meeting or open meeting, gathering information. And one of the things that they reported in their final report was that many, particular women who were independent contractors who were being harassed at the place that they were contracted to did not have anywhere to go and file a complaint. And that because they were not technically employees of that entity. So this was this change was made to provide them with an outlet to be able to file a complaint of discrimination, even though they are not employed by that particular employer, but they have a contractual relationship with that employer, and therefore they will be protected. So that's another little difference. Moving down, looking in terms of your authority, your general powers and duties, it does enumerate that the authority, the commission, in consultation with the executive director, have these various skills, authority, and it was somewhat interesting or somewhat confusing to me. And as to whether or not that enumeration in terms of the commission meant the commission holistically, or that basically in consultation, it would be delegating to the executive director to conduct some of these duties. Because as there are two areas where I see potential conflict if you are doing certain things that that are listed. For instance, investigating complaints. Now, one of the duties, or you have listed as an enumeration and investigating complaints, but then it also says you conduct public hearings. Well, how do you investigate and be the trier of fact? That creates a conflict. And I, for one, if I had a client and you were investigating the case and then you're now the trier of fact, I would say, let's go somewhere else because there's a conflict here. Our commissioners, the difference with our commissioners is that our commissioners do not investigate cases. We don't share any information regarding any case, whether there's a complaint or any of the processing of that complaint, investigating that complaint with the commissioners, because they will set as an appeal board, should this matter gets litigated and the case is tried at the Office of Administrative Hearings, and it comes back to them to review as an appeal panel of, we have 9 commissioners, so an appeal panel is 3 commissioners out of the 9 commissioners. We used to have, did you have a question? Okay. Our commissioners used.
I was going to add that there are, as the county, we do actually separate out the investigative nature of it versus the actual hearing for that very reason. So there is a separation, and reporting wise, there is not a lot of the specific facts of an investigation are not reported to the commission or even to me as a chair, simply as far as general facts, not even including parties' names or the entities.
Mhm.
For that very reason, in the event that it does come back to the commission.
So how do you, in terms of your structure, who does the investigations and then who?
What typically what's on, it's been our extensive staff, which has gotten less extensive.
Right. Okay.
But as
And that's important because the way the law is written is kind of confusing. But then you go down to the into the specifics of investigation. It says the executive director, which I assume would be the staff as delegated, conducting the investigation. But you have, in terms of the general powers, that commissioners can do investigations. So that may be something you may want to clarify and clean up at a later point, so that you don't have that particular, you may get a commissioner who believes they can do both. So, which could be problematic. But that separation is very important, because you want to have that fairness of a party that is able to bring their complaint and not have the person that's going to decide the outcome also being involved in the processing of investigating and making a determination. That's right.
Just another point to consider, I guess, in that potential issue of investigation and hearings is kind of the substantive legal training or substantive law knowledge that we need to ensure that commissioners have to do either one of those tasks, right?
It is very important, and even with our commissioners, we encourage them to go, and sometimes we present substantive law training, and you have additional areas that when you are making a decision, you have to make it based on the legal theories. Are the facts there to support the legal theory? And it's not a matter of, okay, I like his story better than I like her story, because that creates where your basis is not supported by law, and the persons are coming here to say that there is a violation of the law, and their expectation is that if they're complaining about a legal violation of the law, they're expecting you to make a decision based on the law and the theory that is applicable to that particular coverage. There are certain theories for employment discriminations. There are certain legal theories for fair housing violations. There are certain legal theories for education and for financing. And you have to apply those theories in determining whether or not there is or is not. And I always tell our investigator, it makes your life easier when you have the theory and you look to see, are there facts to plug into it? And if something's missing in the list, in the pieces of the theory, then it's no cause. You don't have to weigh your personal feelings and you like the person or you hate the person, or you feel sorry for them. All of that gets thrown out. You're looking at it objectively in terms of factually, is there evidence based on the legal theory that supports a cause finding in this case? If it's not there, then there is no protection. There is no cause for that particular complaint that was filed. And you can objectively explain to the party why you did not find cause or why you decided there was no discrimination based on the evidence, and not based on, well, we had a feeling that's what happened. Because there are a lot of times where you will have a feeling or you will suspect that there was something that went amiss, but you won't have the evidence to prove it. And in spite of your gut, I have to say no because you can't prove that it happened. And sometimes we will tell complainants, yes, it's not fair. Oh, yes, we think something happened, but unless we get this and this and this as evidence, we're not going to be able to go forward with this because we can't prove it.
And that's what actually Ramona does a lot of that investigative work, and it is. And we've had discussions at commission meetings where, again, so you can tell this the little facts. We don't like the one side. We don't like anything about them.
Right.
As an attorney, it doesn't. Even though we don't like the person, we can't just proceeding if we don't have documentation to support it. Unfortunately.
Exactly. Sometimes our investigators don't like the attorney, and they're like trying. I was like,
I understand.
No, don't let personalities get in there.
Yeah, I understand.
You know, just the facts.
Yeah.
My colleague, my assistant general counsel always says that you're umpires and you just call balls and strikes, and that's it. And that will keep you out of trouble. And that'll keep you on the straight and narrow and keep you out of trouble. If you just call the balls and strikes, is the evidence there or is it not there? And that's crucial. Our commissioners used to be triers of fact, but because of the volume of cases that we were having, and trying to get 3 commissioners to come and hear these cases, it developed an enormous backlog. And we went and amended, the law was amended to remove them from that position of hearing cases as a trier fact and shifted them to being doing appellate review after a case has been tried. So our cases, our factual, our cases that we try, they are tried at the Office of Administrative Hearings by administrative law judges. Before they created OAH, we had hearing examiners that were connected to the agency, and they were the trier facts. They would hear the cases and make a decision. Then when OAH was created, all hearing examiners in all the state agencies were put under one umbrella. They all had those who were not lawyers had, I think they had like a 3-year, 4-year grace period to go to law school and pass the bar, or they were not going to be ALJs. Several of them did. Several of them managed to go to law school and pass the bar and continue to hold on to their jobs because we had a lot of ALJs who were not lawyers. But part of the creating the Office of Administrative Hearing was requiring that everyone who is ALJ is an attorney.
So Glendora, I was just thinking about this in terms of we're getting like a pretty big, well, I don't say big, but a significant uptick in complaints and potential cases that could be investigated. And I think, as Jason alluded to earlier, a diminishment of staff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so
we're in the same bucket.
I was just thinking about in the context of, and I don't know what necessarily happened historically, but if we focused on the possibility, I was thinking about a couple of possibilities. I don't know if there's other commissions where they have commissioners kind of specialize in specific areas where we could have people understand specific areas of the civil rights law, like employment, housing, whatever, or also considering the role of the county attorney office in terms of supporting the commissioners as, maybe initial hearing board.
I think probably your second probably is a cleaner approach, is to, in terms of assisting in hearing cases and moving them along so they don't get bottlenecked, or in terms of organizing. I don't know, how many commissioners do you have?
I think we currently have 12, I think.
12 commissioners?
Yeah.
And it may be organizing the panels and scheduling so that that cases are heard on a continuing basis so that you don't get bottlenecked. We're in a resource jam as well, because we have, for whatever you're seeing, multiply that by 100. Yeah.
That's one of the caveats in that, quite honestly, is, and I think it's been about 15 years now that I've been on the commission, yet to have anything come before us.
Yeah, right.
And it's because of, quite often, once that initial investigative work has been done, it's often being then either beyond the purview of what we can provide to the respondent as what they would want, the petitioner rather, and so it gets referred to you, and that's how your caseload keeps growing and growing and growing.
Or that's where you're dumping them. Okay.
or it gets taken away to the federal government. In some cases, they take it, and quite honestly, it's not for your concern, but for our level, there's no reimbursement for all the work that's been done. We've done the work, and whether it's Ramona or others in the past, tremendous research, tremendous work. The groundwork has been laid, and then you pass that along, and as far as the state or the county, the reimbursement isn't there. So we I don't know if you can get reimbursed, but we cannot for the work we're doing.
I mean, why are you sending the cases to us? Why aren't you sending them through to be tried in front of the commissioners?
I should let Ramona comment, but we'd not be happy to, but we'd be willing to. A lot of the times, the relief that we can provide
is limited.
Is limited.
So people want to be removed so they can go where they can get more of a remedy than what you can provide.
Right. So
I guess one of the fixes is looking at your remedies and improving them to be similar to the state and the federal government.
Going back to Celestine Morgan, we've been trying to get some of those remedies.
I know. It's a marathon. You gotta be, you gotta be, you gotta persevere, because we had to do the same thing. We did not have, we didn't have the same remedies that EOC had under when they changed the law and they add actual damages, compensatory damages, all of that. We didn't have that. And also the right to go to court, to elect out to go to court. So it took us several years, probably about a decade, of just like, we're not going away. We're going to just keep putting it back and keep putting it back. And the strange things about legislation, there's no rhyme or reason why stuff passes. And there's no rhyme or reason why it doesn't pass. It just hits the right moment, the skies open up, and poof, it passed. The same bill that everybody ranted and raved and screamed and hollered, oh, we're going to get all these lawsuits filed and we can't have that, and we're not going to be able to deal with this. The same employment law that basically changed our entire employment law procedure passed. And now what has happened though is that the good cases get pulled out by lawyers to go to court. So I see the in terms of cases certified for public hearing for me to bring the car. As far as employment cases, it's usually the complex case where everybody's digging in their heels and nobody wants to give. But on the end of those, in terms of cases investigating, where your burden is what's happening. And you may see more as people start losing their jobs because of the virus. And we expect possibly an uptick in fair housing because people start getting evicted.
Yeah.
COVID, it's like this bubble that's moving along, that's going to burst sooner or later, and whether we're going to see the outcome of it. I've been on several webinars with employment lawyers from the labor employment law. I'm on the labor employment section council and different webinars on what to do. Somebody's phone ringing. COVID-19 issues, and people are talking about some of the complicated things that they're getting, particularly when it comes to disability, reasonable accommodation, people back to work,
Yep.
relatives to go back to, or they don't want to bring it home to their family, and all that's coming up the road. In fact, if it ain't already here, because I know we have received several cases raising those kinds of issues. We know that we're going to develop a backlog. I mean, it's just, there's only so many cases one person can do. Our investigators all have a production number that they have to produce, but we recognize you don't want to burn people out and they leave, and you also want them to be able to do a good job on the cases that they do have. So it's just longer for us to do cases. And until we get more people, get more resources, it's like you can't keep giving us more mandates, more cases, more areas to investigate and expect the same result. It just, the numbers don't work. And we have to look out for the health and well-being of the people that are doing the work, to keep them willing and wanting to stay and do the work. Because you got to keep starting all over again. That's lost time and lost cases, because you can't give somebody walking in the door the same amount of cases you have someone who's been there for 2 or 3 years.
Right.
You got to start them off slow, so your production numbers are going to go down for a while until that person gets up to speed. And you can't burden the people who are already there with additional work to try to make up for the loss of cases. So that's a challenge for everybody, all agencies now. EEOC is drowning, and they're trying to shovel off cases to the left and to the right to get the FEPAs to try help them out with investigating some of those cases, because they're drowning. They've been drowning for a long time, but it's getting even worse now. So that's one of the challenges that you as a commission have to look at. Okay, how can you come up with what kind of a system to look at cases? There's some in terms of what complaints you take in. Sometimes a closer look at a case will say that it's not something you can fix because you don't have really have jurisdiction over it. A lot of times, because people have nowhere else to complain about employment, they come to you. And when you start going through it, it's like, well, this has nothing to do with what we do. The expectation. We're dealing now with a gentleman who really, he needs to see social services. We cannot fix his problem, but he keeps emailing, and he keeps, we keep sending him here and there. When he doesn't get a response from them, he keeps coming back to us. We can't fix your problem. We don't have jurisdiction. We cannot fix this problem that you are, pushing us to do. So that's some of the challenges that you have, and we have, as to what is the best way efficiently, fairly to assist folks, as many people as you can. And you may have to create different standards as opposed to what you would have when you could take everybody and all takers and everything. You may have to look at, okay, what is it that we can do? And, like you say, you're doing all the work, in terms of how does that play out, and how does that play out in terms of you being able to keep from drowning. So
also, if there are other commissioners that have questions, I know I've hogged up some of the time. Also, but
yeah, please feel free to ask.
if there are questions you think of along the way, certainly please chime in. But although you're hitting, I think, a lot of the topics as we're moving through it. It's the concerns that we have as well, and I think it's also helpful for us to hear that we're not unique.
No, you're not alone. You're not alone. And, and it's something that we've talked about a lot, is that because everybody assumed that all was well, and we were living in a post-racial society, and there was no need for these agencies. And so whenever there was a bubble or a problem, the cuts came, but they never replaced them. They never, everybody says they care about discrimination. They care about people being discriminated against, but that's just lip service. When you look at where the budget is, and when you look at where the money is, then you have to agitate for people to put the money where their mouth is. Don't say you support it and you're not putting any money into it.
And several counties went in that direction several years ago.
Yes, I remember having to go to Montgomery County, me and one of our chair of our commission, to go and support the Montgomery County Commission to keep them from totally annihilating them. They were on the chopping block. They were going to totally get rid of them. And we went there and said, no, you can't do that. And there are certain peculiarities in your ordinances that provide your citizens in Montgomery County additional rights that are not available in the rest of the state. And they serve a purpose and a role, because we cannot absorb everybody's complaints.
Right.
From around the state. There is a reason why there's a local, state, and federal relationship, because one, you are familiar with your county, you're familiar with your community, whereas we're not, or the feds are not familiar with Maryland. And so we're looking at, okay, who's on the ground, who has access, who can quickly investigate these complaints, and not have someone investigating a complaint who's in Ohio, which is what happens with EEOC. You have an investigator who's in Nevada or Utah investigating a complaint in Baltimore and has no clue anything about the community. So you don't want that, which is why there is this network that exists among the three partners in terms of jointly trying to handle these cases. But these are challenging times, and I think you really have to advocate or get others, which is what Montgomery County did to save themselves, is to get others to come and advocate for you. If you can't say it, then find allies who can go to the budget hearings, who can go to the government and leadership and say, we're demanding that you properly fund this agency, and not just give lip service about how you're against unlawful discrimination. You got to get allies. I get allies in the legislature. I tell the legislators, like, look, y'all got to go and put pressure on the governor to give us money, because we can't do it. We request it, but when y'all put in these mandates for us to do things, then you also need to go to the governor and get funding for us to be able to do it. Otherwise, we're going to have to pick and choose. We're going to have to prioritize what we can do, what is our core mandate, and what we cannot do, because we just don't have the people to do it.
And with that in mind, to be fair to you and your time, since we appreciate you spending it tonight, certainly you take as much more time as you need, but I also want to be considerate of you and not spending your entire evening with us as well. So, are there other thoughts that you wanted to share with us? I don't want
Real
to,
quick.
but
Yeah,
I also
sure.
don't want to obligate you to stay on longer.
Now, real quickly, I like that you have a very good confidentiality clause because that is crucial in terms of, because people are always curious and want to know what's going on, especially the media. And you have similar types of penalties that I always tell the media that if we can't tell you, if we can't give you names, we can't tell you whether we even have it, because I'm not going to jail and I'm not paying $1,000 fine just so your curiosity can be fulfilled, you know. But the law says until it goes to public hearing, i.e. litigation, we can't talk about it and we're not going to talk about it. And so I like that you have a very good, strong confidentiality clause. One question I do have is in terms of the reconsideration, how does that work? Because in the statute, it says that if the executive director determines that, and I think it does it in twofold, in terms of rejecting a complaint and also reconsideration, that there is conference with the commissioners as to whether the complaint is taken, and then if there's an outcome that the person doesn't like and they want reconsideration, that there's a panel of the chair and two commissioners that's supposed to review the request for reconsideration.
We actually we have not had the opportunity to have to present it. So, and I was,
Okay.
I was bringing it up on my other screen as you were mentioning it. Again, I'll look at it more closely. But yeah, we have not had the opportunity.
Okay. What about the taking of complaints? Are you involved in terms of?
No, we are. No, the commissioners, none of us are. I think the executive director does some. More so, it's Ramona who does the intake, the investigation, then reports to Troy, to the executive director, shares with him, and then they're doing sort of they are doing investigative research, and that based on their findings then is being brought forward or not. And unfortunately for many individuals, but due to the facts, many of them are stopping there because of the fact that they don't have the documentation, they don't have the information support moving forward. So also we do also get a deluge of human resources inquiries.
That's why we changed our name. That is just why we changed our name from Human Relations to Civil Rights Commission, because that's what we were getting in terms of inquiries, tons of inquiries about food stamps, housing, shelter, social services type things that that's not. And I think because they see human, they misinterpret that as meaning that we're human resources or human services, and that takes a lot of energy talking, dealing with folks, telling them we're not the one, but they're usually desperate and they want you to be the one, and sometimes they won't no matter what.
I think that one of the things that I was facing up until this particular point was the fact that the Health and Human Services Office also wanted us to be their point of contact. Right? And so our lines definitely were getting blurred to a certain extent of what can we help, how can we help, as opposed to now just focusing on the human and civil rights portion of our job now. So
it creates confusion. And it's unfair to people because the time they're spending trying to make you fit in that circle, in that square peg, they could going to the appropriate party to get the relief that they necessarily are seeking, and we can't provide for them. But that is one reason why we did change our name, because of that confusion that just and as things time passed, worse and worse and worse. So that is, um, it does provide that if there's a no cause that a person can request a hearing in 20 days. Has that ever happened?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, well, it's in there. It's in there. Like, that's interesting. That's different. Should you have a hearing, who would the parties be before? Who would be the parties that would be presenting to you as commissioners?
If you went out, I didn't.
I said, if you were to have a hearing as the trier fact, a panel, who would be the parties that would be presenting the evidence to you? Would it be the complainant and the respondent only?
I believe it is they are allowed to have representation at that point. But that would be typically would be just the parties. And as far as the commissioners that would be hearing it, my understanding, even though we haven't actually had to create one, would be that it'd be a three members that were obviously knew nothing of it. Typically, the recommendation was that they would not even be individuals from the district where the event occurred. So there's no other sense of implied there'd be a conflict or any other interest of knowing the parties, or the three commissioners.
Oh, okay. Because in our proceedings, before, even in court, even when people like to go to circuit court, there are three parties. There is the commission, we represent the state of Maryland, that's our client, the complainant, who can be represented or not, and the respondent. We act like prosecutors, like the state's attorney's office. We prosecute the case on behalf of the complaint, and the complainant is our necessary witness, but we don't represent the complainant, and we make that very clear because there are times where our position is different from the complainant party. But usually if a complainant is not represented, we assist them through the process of litigation, pleadings and so forth. We assist or have them sign off. And even if they're represented by counsel, we work as partners cooperatively in bringing forth the case. But we're prosecuting the case against the respondent for violating the state law and of unlawful discrimination. So,
and I guess we have to have a qualification of that. But my understanding is in the past that we have not taken on that prosecutorial role to be to hear the matter, and after years and years of not having matters brought forth, it's probably allowed us to be very lax in our understanding of what our procedures are.
At the same time, I think our role is very limited, a lot more limited than your role is, so there's so much we can do or allowed to do rather,
I mean, you all have a lot of extra stuff that we don't have in your statute, in your ordinance. You just join it because it hasn't presented itself. I think, I guess the difference that we have is that there is an attorney, my office, that will prosecute the case. Your reliance is on the county office. Like if the case were a pattern practice or it went to the appeal board, the county attorney would be representing the commission, bringing that case on behalf of the commission. There is a role, in some cases for you, as a party. If a case goes on appeal, you're a party to the appeal to defend your decision. Somebody has to defend the commissioners. So, and that is the county attorney's responsibility, but you are a party to that action. But I think part of it is, since you haven't been doing any of that, then it's there and as a part of your authority. It just hasn't been utilized.
Yeah, the many years I've been with the commission, we have never had a need for it, I guess, it never went that far. Perhaps that's why, we never knew we had this, beautiful thing for us, that we could help ourselves with. So,
Yeah, and that, like what I said before, is that cases didn't reach that point. But in conclusion, I think it's helpful that you all get training on this area, different topics, so that you have some idea, particularly on different subject matter, what's happening today, what are the trending issues, what are the particulars of those issues. On these different coverages that you have, so at least you are aware of it, and then whether you need should there come a time where you are actually hearing cases, you will know that you need to have much more intense training in order to really be able to fairly make decisions. But you do have a lot of a variety of things that are enumerated in the statute, and now that you have a copy of it, it should take a little time to look through it and familiarize yourself with it, just so you know what powers you have and what powers you don't have, and also in terms of utilizing it to craft roles that you do want to participate in, like doing town hall meetings, surveys, or something like that, or training, going out and speaking in the community, those kinds of things. Those are in your enumerated powers, and that will give you some guidance as to coming up with some of the things that you would like to do to be more involved.
Well, I thought that's actually a great way to segue. I mean, we first of all, thank you, Linda. I appreciate you giving up an hour of your evening, and I'm sure you've been on a lot of calls and a lot of meetings. Like
The new normal.
but it's
I didn't have to deal with traffic.
and once we get through this, we'll happy to invite you and have it join us for dinner at one of the meetings. But again, you open our eyes to a lot of what the county is doing versus the state. Also, even though one of the best ways to truly prepare is to be aware and prepare for what we don't need today, but so that when the situation does present itself, and it quite possibly could going forward, we're in a position to act instead of react. So
Absolutely.
thank you sort of for opening our eyes and reminding us that we need to be prepared for even for the possibilities that haven't presented but could.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me. I hope that was helpful to you, and I look forward to speaking to you again.
All right, thank you, and I'm sure everyone who will have the recording will enjoy it just as much.
Great. Thank you.
Glendora.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Hey, Jason,
Yes.
Herb Lauder here. I wondering why we can't begin to establish friends in the legislature, people that know our situation better to get, if we simply need more people to do the job of seeing that whoever's the county executive, Johnny is now, gets us the number of people that we need, rather than lament that we're too small. And so in both cases, it looks like we need to do something about the power sources that are available to get us people to meet our needs.
Certainly, that's a valid point. It's not a new conversation. I've and there are others that are on the commission that have been on here for a while, and we've seen the growth. And actually, we did expand staff at one point, and it's a matter of really financials, the ability for the state to fund what it needs to fund, what it views as a priority, and the optimal way for us to increase the support. Because as amazing as Ramona Brown Carter is, she's one person.
Oh, understand that. That's why I say we need to get more,
More-
more resources, more money, more people.
So I think you have complete support of all of us, and I think what I'm saying is that it's a matter of going back to our county council members and educating them on the needs and demands, and quite possibly in light of unfortunately our current events, that might draw more attention and might be helpful in getting more funds directed
Exactly.
to us. But at the same time, you also see the budgets and how COVID-19 and resources are being pulled away from everywhere to meet those needs. So you make a valid point. If certainly it's something that we should consider going forward. And actually, with that, actually, do you want to, Ramona, go ahead and let you transition to some of the comments you were going to make as far as serving as a commissioner?
Sure. Can everyone see that screen?
Yes.
I know that there are some that are on the phone. So this is just going to be, I know we have our newest commissioner, which is Commissioner Lewis. Then we have moving up to Commissioner Bryan, Commissioner King, Commissioner Lauder kind of came in together. So you guys are more the younger, not in age, but the younger commissioners on the board. And so we kind of just want to make you understand. And I'm so glad that Glendora said some of the things that she said, because upon our conversation, it made me revamp what I was doing, because I said, oh, she's going to address a lot of different things. So what I wanted to do was focus on what it is to living and serving as a commissioner in Baltimore County, because I think sometimes we think it's just us coming together on the second Wednesday of the month, having dinner, listening to me tell you what's going on in the commission, listening to our previous director Marsha talk about what was happening, now listening to Troy and him giving you the updates, but it goes far beyond that. So if you just yield a couple of minutes to me this evening, we'll go from there. Tonight, we'll talk about understanding the Baltimore County Human Relations Commission, the Human Relations Commissioner, community engagement, and social media, and then also what I consider and I call the safe space. All right. So, understanding the Baltimore County Human Relations Commission. We're going to deal with the county at large. What is the Human Relations Commission? Services that the Human Relations Commission provides. So the first thing is, I use our executive director. As far as Baltimore County is concerned, we host a lot of um, local, federal, and government, federal and state employees. Baltimore County has just as many federal buildings as PG County or Montgomery County. And it starts over there in Woodlawn with the FBI is over there. We have the Social Security Administration in those areas, and they host a lot of employees. A lot of times, especially downtown, when we think about the EEOC, we think about how they connect to us. And so, as an employee on that level, we're not considered elected officials or municipal officers, but we're bound by the law to implement policy, procedure, and protocol. Important that we do that. Give me 1 second. Hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. So that we can find now, as far as the commissioners, clients, and constituents, we vary. So the commissioners live in Baltimore County, the clients live in Baltimore County, constituents live in Baltimore County. However, these are sometimes people who work, eat, or play in Baltimore County, and they're bound by the law to abide by the policy, procedure, and protocol. Our office gets contacted by family, friends, co-workers, people who are aware of certain instances, and the inquiries go on and on and on and on. These people are really not bound by the law because they can't speak on behalf of the complainant. What we need our commissioners to do is to get out into the public and listen to that family, that friend, that coworker who has an incident, that knows of someone, and recommend them to the Human Relations Commission. This is how we get our cases. When you are out in the field, when you are out communicating with your community basis, this helps our job, because we can't go searching for cases, but we definitely can take the inquiries, and when they turn into complaints, and then when they turn into investigations, and allow us to fact find. That's what happens. So what is the Human Relations Commission? You are definitely going to get a copy of this. This is just a general scope of some information of what a Human Relations Commission is. And that first caveat says, the mission of the Human Relations Commission is to promote ways in which people and communities learn to get along and to safeguard equal opportunities for all. Human relation activities help communities become more harmonious, respectful, and cohesive. And we know that right now we're dealing with several issues. We're not just dealing with one issue. We're already dealing with civil and human rights issues, but we're dealing with the pandemic. We're dealing with civil unrest. We're dealing with police reform. There's a lot of different things that people have questions and concerns about when dealing with when dealing with their neighbors, when dealing at work, when dealing just in general with other county, state, and federal employees. And so they need to know, how can I file this complaint? What can I do? Are there any avenues? Can someone come and speak to my neighborhood? Can someone do what I need? Can someone help me with what I need? So you'll get a copy of this, and I will send this out to you tomorrow. Just gives you a general. I know we've been on here a very long time, and I don't want to hold you, but this has very good information. Kind of just pulls everything together as far as our neighborhoods are concerned, as far as the different music, different things that pull us together. Understand, but sometimes we'll find out that we can live harmonious together. So the services that the Human Relations Commission provides. The HRC is we do investigate complaints of discrimination, but in addition to that, we are involved with community relations, educational outreach activities, and services. We administer the mediation program. We offer conducting studies and surveys, and we do this by partnering with other organizations. It is not that the Human Relations Commission gathers information, but we are part of other organizations that have specific data, and then we can reach out to those who we need to. We conduct training and workshops for businesses, agencies, and organizations, providing technical assistance in the areas of civil and human rights and personnel issues. One of the great things as far as personnel issues this time around with the Human Relations Commission is this merge with the Diversity of Equity and Inclusion Office. Our executive director comes with some more powers that we didn't know that we actually will have, or will have the opportunity to operate and help those who are in need, when at first we did not have, as far as county employees were concerned, with helping them with their issues. And this does include now this includes the community college, and includes the Board of Education. It includes the police department. It helps us to branch out this tree that has been planted for over 50 years. And so now it's time for us to re-get our roots wet. And it's time for us to branch out and do more in our community and bring things up. We sponsor forums and human relations events, monitoring and responding to hate bias incidents. And this is the monitoring is that hate crimes report. We're now getting more information than we got before. So we're moving in the right direction. We just have to be ready and able and put in position to get that information. Participating in programs and events of other agencies. We want to be shown as being friendly. We don't want it just to seem like, oh, we only want people to come to the events that Baltimore County is hosting. But we want to make sure that we're doing that. developing programs to promote harmony and understanding among all people, and working with the community groups to address and resolve human relation issues in the community. That's very important. As commissioners, it's very important for you to understand the the pulse of your district, the pulse of what's going on in your area. If your area is one that it just seems like everything is sunbeams and rainbows, then maybe you need to partner with another commissioner who may need some assistance in their area. We have, excuse me, and we're going to go into the Human Relations Commissioner. Your role as a commissioner, that is a great segue into that. So I am, or I have been appointed as a Human Relations Commissioner. So what does that mean? What that means is you're a part of a 15 board member of commissioners. 7 are recommended by the council person of each district, and the other 8 are members at large. So we cover the entire county. You are able to work with each other and to go into other areas and to help where help is needed. All commissioners are appointed by the county executive, and you serve at your term will last up 2 years from the date that you're appointed. You can be reappointed at the end of the term if there's no objection from the district council person, the executive director, or the county executive. What we want to do is make sure that we have people who are at the table, who are not afraid to talk about those issues. So at the Human Relations Commission table, we're going to deal with fair housing. We're going to deal with source of income. We're going to deal with LGBTQ issues. We're going to deal with sexual harassment issues. We're going to deal with a lot of issues. And so if some of these issues are issues that you find yourself as a commissioner not able to deal with on a daily basis, then you need to think about the board that you are a part of, because this board covers the entire county, and there is no specific no way to say, oh, well, this part of the budget is only covered by the African American community. This budget is only covered by the Asian. No, we are funded by the county constituents, whether it's somebody who works at the local Aldi's or it's someone who owns a Fortune 500 company. County money is county money, and we have to be respectful of everyone who is a constituent of the county.
And one thing that let me just interject that, and it's part of what has happened in the past many times too, just because or we're going to have discussions on some of these difficult topics, doesn't mean that everybody agrees in the exact method of going forward or your own personal opinions. You're allowed to have those thoughts and those opinions, and that's part of what's bringing all of us together, is to educate one another and hearing those things. But it's a matter of having your opinions and being a part of the discussion is important. What is now then taking the next step too is, though, actually acting on those is some things you have to reserve yourself as a commissioner as opposed to you separately as an individual. So I just wanted to share that. Ramona, I'll let you take back.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate that. Up until this point, is there anyone that has anything that they want to say or have a question up until this point? If not, I'm going to continue. So, as the human relation, wait, was there something?
Yeah, I'm just saying some of the things you have been saying, we used to do some of these stuff before, you know what I mean? Then it just suddenly stopped, and I don't know why it stopped, because it is something we could continue. Why was it stopped? Do you know that?
So, what before?
Let me cut you off, Commissioner Rahman. Valid point. Let's go forward, not backward. So I understand what you're saying, and I've been there with you.
Yes, I want to move forward. There's no doubt about it. I'm just thinking, was there change that we were not aware of it, that it happened? That's what we did. That's all I want to know.
There's been varying focuses, change in focus, change in direction, change in leadership, and so both within the commission and at the county level, and even at a council member. So it's once again, it's a valid point, but I'm hoping we can actually, with really have a fresh start, quite honestly, with Executive Williams and where we are now. I think we can really, um, because of the situation we're in our community right now, we don't have a choice to move, but to move forward. I think we're going to do that.
Correct. Correct.
That's
So yeah. So I would just admonish everyone to understand that we are moving in a very great direction. What our county executive is doing is progressive, and so we have to step up. We can't really, like Commissioner Blavis said, dwell on what we didn't do, but now we need to focus on how can I put my boots on and strap up and be a part of what's taking place right now. So as a body, we're governed by Article 29. That link was sent to you. I admonish you to get into that, read it, understand it, so that when these cases come and we start moving in direction and we start pulling different people in different roles, that you understand why you're in that particular role, why things are changing. As a board, we you establish the rules and regulations governing the election of the officers. So Commissioner King came in and assumed the role of secretary. Anyone could have during that time, while it was open, put themselves out there. As far as the chairperson is concerned, that is the only role that is not up for election, and because that is an appointed role, as well as the executive director by the county executive. So those positions will move according to the administration. As you all know, we hold monthly meetings, which are already set for the second Wednesday of the month throughout the year. This is except for the month of March and August, unless there's a vote for a change in those months. And I know that with this pandemic, we missed a few months because we were trying to figure out how do we go live online, trying to figure out what we're doing. So we're trying to catch up in those months that were missed. Um, the HRC board has the authority to hold official hearings after an official complaint has been filed and investigated. Remember that the complaint must believe discrimination. The complainant must believe discrimination was based on his or her protected status, not their perceived or not their I think. It has to be um, believed as far as these protected classes are concerned. The complaint must be filed within the 6-month time period um, from the date of the actual occurrence of the alleged discriminatory act. Also, the alleged discrimination has to take place in Baltimore County. During this pandemic, I have been reached out by Anne Arundel County. I've been reached out by Carroll County. I've been reached out by Allegheny County. You name it, and they have. And what I think is because we get so much traffic to our website that sometimes in Google, when they put in human relations, sometimes it will show the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights, then it will show us. And when they call, it's like, oh, they're playing a game of who's going to answer the phone. So sometimes they're surprised that somebody actually calls back. But we have to remember we only have jurisdiction in Baltimore County. The Human Relations Commission does not have jurisdiction over county government, the Board of Education, or community colleges. Like we just stated, with the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Office, we may see some other things happening with that merger taking place. So we need to be prepared to see what is happening and be willing and accepting of change. So we're coming to the close. Community engagement and social media activity. These are huge things that we need to pay attention to as commissioners. Community engagement as far as fair housing is concerned, employment, education, those with disabilities, this could be physical or mental disability, and in finance. Um, when we're dealing with the LGBTQ community, we need to remember that we need to attend trainings and seminars in intergroup relations. That is our specialty, intergroup relations. We need to be aware of the studies and be aware of survey studies and inquiries. Be very sensitive to someone who's talking to you. If you think that this is something that requires the Human Relations Commission um, to pay attention to take note of. Walk them through the process. And while I'm saying this, I'm going to also give me 1 second. I want to bring this up because you are getting a copy of this tomorrow. So Sharon, give me 1 second. This, if you are not familiar with our brochure, this is our current brochure. We have not been given um, any permission to change or alter anything. We have added the source of income to it as far as source, and that is what covers the veterans. So the source of income, the housing voucher, child support. Um, um, Thank you, Commissioner Lewis. I see that. Yes, we are moving in a new direction, and it's going to be awesome. So that is where we covered, like Glendora said, as far as the state is concerned, they don't cover veterans, but we just as acquired when we got that Home Act added protection for veterans. So we're a little progressive. We're a little bit ahead of the game in what we're doing. So you will have this. So this is something like if someone contacts you and says, well, let me give you this, give me your email and I'll send this to you. You look this over. Let's talk about this. Does this really require, do you feel like you've been overlooked? Your rights and responsibilities. It goes through all of that. And this is also available in Spanish. But this is the English version, but you will get a copy of the English and the Spanish version on tomorrow. And please save it so that you can share it. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna go back to share this. I'm gonna go back to share. Here we go. Give me 1 second. What's happening here? My laptop is acting a little busy. Let me get back in here. Let's see what happened. There we go. So we want to make recommendations. This is the thing. This is one of the things that we've always talked about, and it's like, can we? Should we? Yes. If you are a member at large, you are appointed by the county executive. You have every right to go to one of the town halls and speak to him or make time to be put on his schedule. He sees you are a constituent. You are a valued member of Baltimore County. So you can make recommendations to that person and those who are appointed by county council persons. See who your county council person is. Remember who they are. Sometimes I think we forget that their offices change upon voting season, right? So it's just like, oh, well, I've been a part of the commission for 25 years. Oh, I've been a part and I was appointed by this particular person. However, get to know who your council person is in your district. Even if you're a member at large, get to know who that person is. Find out what the agenda is. See if this is something that you can be a part of. Do they have some community groups that need assistance where you can sit at the table and represent the Human Relations Commission? As of right now, myself and Troy, we can't cover the entire county. We're trying, but we can't cover the entire county. There's no way that we can do it. We're part of a lot of different organizations and boards, but we're trying. And last but not least, as far as community engagement is concerned, cooperate with other commissions, agencies, organizations, groups, and so on. So that means, like, if you hear that you live close to Howard County on that Baltimore County, Howard County line, and you hear that the Howard County Human Rights is having something at the library that's right over the line, go ahead and support them. Let them know that you're there. They will welcome you being there. Cove is not just for me. Just because I say that I'm the co-chair of that, it is open for you if you have the time to come to the meetings when we're back in the normal. Those organizations that we're a part of, we want you to be at the table so that you can report from your own understanding what is happening with that, right? Social media is a very big deal. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, the new TikTok, all of that. Those are big things, and we have to be very careful of how we're engaging it, especially when you put out there that you're a commissioner for the Human Relations Commission. You want to be mindful of what you share and how you share it, how you're um, taking in account. You may not agree with everything that the county executive says. You may not agree with everything that Troy does. You may not agree with everything that I do. But what we don't want to do is find ourselves bashing the administration whom we are serving at the pleasure of. So we want to engage constituents in real time, and provide useful guidance on community and social issues. Yes, there is a lot going on in this country right now, but we want to make sure that we are utilizing our power for good. Promote positive thought to leadership throughout the county, um, and this considers our county council as well. We want to make sure that we are in agreement with what's happening. If you're not in agreement, that calls for a meeting so that you can find out what's going on and you can talk to that person specifically, right? Disseminate news and information and services and events for the county and the Human Relations Commission. When we have events, the best thing for you to do is to share, to like and share. When you share that information, it lets them know that you're taking your role as a commissioner serious, that you're just not utilizing it as a fancy badge to wear when you're out in the public. But there are some engaging information that is taking place. And last but not least, we want to make sure that we build real and virtual communities. Um, when we build our communities up, when we engage that underserved population, it shows that the county has a heart. And yes, social services, which is considered a federal and a state funded uh, uh, departments, are, as far as underserved populations are concerned, they are there to help. However, when these people are mistreated, when they're treated unfair, that pulse radiates to our office. And so we have to be ready to um, speak to what is needed for those particular persons. And last but not least, this is what I call the Safe Space HRC boardroom. This is where you can ask your questions. Myself and Troy and Jason are available. I see that Commissioner um, Lewis had some things that she had in here, and so she let's see. Uh, let's see. If we're moving in a new direction, what is it that the HRC wants to achieve? Have specific goals been stated? How will we assess, measure achievement or success? What objective items will be measured? Uh, Troy, do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I don't want to hold everybody all night, but I think kind of some of the takeaways for me are simply that, um, tonight kind of illuminated once again that we need to continue along this path. And I think this training was just an initial step along that path of defining who we want to be as a commission, what model we want to follow, kind of where we want to place our points of emphasis, based on now a better understanding of the statute, based on the day-to-day operations of Ramona. So I think we'll continue to define those things and create measurements and set solid goals. And I'm just looking forward to the opportunity to kind of get this thing continuing to move forward. I think it's a critical time for us, and I think we need now more than ever to have our commissioners be active presence in the community speaking to the community and letting the community know and understand the importance of the civil rights work that continues to need to be done, and the DEI work that also needs to complement that as we move forward as a county. So I think there's a lot of work on the table, and we'll be mindful of setting measurable as we continue to.
And when we announce ahead of time that there, because one of the other points that you made, Commissioner Lewis, was, can you accompany us? Majority of everything that we do, the community is involved. We are there just to represent the Human Relations Commission and DEI, but you are welcome to come to these events. If it was something that was just specifically closed, but just for employees only, then we will let you know at the time. But if you see something and you're like, oh, this sounds great, or I want to be a part of that training, how do I let us know? We're not going to say no. We love for our commissioners to be engaged. We love for our commissioners to want to be a part, because eventually, like the cultural competency training, eventually we want to move that from out of the employee training space into the community, so that we can begin to reach those who need that information. When those neighborhoods need mediation, we would love for our commissioners to come with us so that we can talk about that. And those are the things. So this is it. I did not want to hold you long. I just wanted to tap into, especially our newer commissioners, just to kind of let you know what is expected of you, what we can do. And like Troy said, we're moving forward. We're trying to get to a place where we can get to achieve goals and cross them out as we knock them out the park. So I think that's it for me. Mm-hmm.
And part of this goes back to Commissioner Ram, and this is your point as well. I mean, we're getting back to basics in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to doing what we need to do, and at the same time, we're doing it in a different world than we were looking at it 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I thank everybody for giving up their time this evening. I look forward to our continuing some good work. And there is never a bad time to reach out to the executive director, or to reach out to Ramona, or to reach out to me and say, hey. And some of you have done that on occasion. And so we'll try to get the response back. And it matter. We're all need to be educated and continuing our education as we go through this. So again, thank you all for your time tonight. Stay safe, stay cool in this weather, and stay positive.
And
Good night,
thank you
Jason.
so
Take
much.
care.
It's really, Shirley, I mean, I'm excited. I'm really, really excited after many years that we are moving forward, and I'm looking forward towards it. And God willing, it will be a good years coming in front of us. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate you.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Good night now.
All right.